Good morning.
Good morning. Today is November 16th, 2025, and our topic today is living a dog's life. And and we're doing that because we are pet sitting a 4-month-old golden doodle, and we've renamed him. His name is Marley, but we're calling him Rasputin because he is a rascal. He is a rascal, but he's a darling rascal. And some of the tenets that we urge people to learn to do in our teaching, such as not worry and
Live in the present.
live in the present moment, be spontaneous and real, and many other things that dogs just do naturally. They just enjoy doing what they do. And so we're going to be talking about it's a dog's life. And how could you be more like a dog? For example, dogs don't worry. And that is one of the biggest things that we teach in our teaching, that worrying is actually a way for you to create what you don't want, because we believe that our minds are the creator of our lives. And what we think and believe and expect manifests, sometimes all too often. And so we have to learn to change our negative thinking, change our thinking of worrying about what bad things might happen, and flip that, do the opposite and visualize and know and expect good things to happen and good health to happen. And it's a wonderful skill to learn. Dogs do it naturally.
Yeah, one of the interesting things to me is how often we don't realize that we're not looking at the present because we're looking through the past, and the filters of the
Mhm.
past so affect our present view that we actually don't see what is in front of us. So if we see a coyote, we don't see a coyote. We see fear of a coyote that might bite, a coyote that shouldn't be where it is, a coyote that has a reputation or there's a story about it. And so we don't see this animal, this wonderful animal who's alive and thriving on its own without the benefit of a pet store feeding it dog food. We don't see any, we see an enemy, or we see a problem, or we see something to be afraid of. And so one of the important things for us to do is to be able, if we can, to notice how often we're looking at the present through the eyes of the past, and how valuable it is to say, let me clear that if I can and see what it is I'm looking at. Sometimes it means getting closer to it. Sometimes it means noticing that you're not necessarily in touch with the moment. You're in touch with whatever's going on, and that's been going on in the past.
Or your fears.
Yeah.
It could be something that's never happened to you, but you're afraid it might happen. And we spend way too much time with what could happen that we don't want to happen.
Right.
And what we learn in the science of mind, it is the science of your mind, but we're really talking about the mind of God that's in you, because it's what's creating your life. So even if it's just a fear that you don't want to happen, you're creating what you don't want if you massage it and think about it and worry about it and all of that. Dogs don't do that.
Mm.
They just don't do that. I'm not saying that they don't learn from fearful experiences. They
Well,
do,
they
but
can, yeah, but I mean,
but
but
they
but
don't.
in general, they're not doing that. I remember taking about a 5,000 mile trip, and one of the things that made the trip feel safe to me was having a spare tire. The one thing you don't want to do is to be on the road going at great distance and not have a spare tire. And I got home from the trip and unloaded the trunk and noticed that the tire was flat. I wonder what my trip would have looked like had I all the while I was driving thinking I got to be careful that I don't hit a pothole, or what if I have a flat, and those kinds of things, I find really interrupt everything that we're doing. The same thing is true as I think sometimes as people get older, they often start thinking about the things that could happen to them if they do something, where they used to think about just doing something. well, what if I fall down? Or what if there's no place to park? Or what if I have to walk too far? The background here is Marley, who's trying to eat a bone that Judith bought him. We're going to have him on my lap here in a minute. So, but it's so easy for us to find something to put in front of the thing that we're looking at so that we actually don't see it.
Right, but so this was a very helpful thing for me when I first was introduced to this teaching.
Mm.
I had a son that from the time he was 1 year old, he wasn't ever sick his first year when I was nursing him. But after that, when I stopped nursing him, we had nothing but this is Marley's bone. We had nothing but sickness with him. And dogs make you laugh. It's so good that they make you laugh all the time. I have laughed so much this week and it's hilarious. But I had to learn to stop worrying. And every time that I would start, because I didn't want to create more illness. And so, because mothers are very powerful, especially with young children, they adopt your consciousness basically. And so, I had to, when I would worry, learn to flip it around and visualize and think about it and affirm that he was healthy. And I would tell him that I would say, "You're a strong, healthy boy." And sometimes he'd turn and say, "I'm a strong, healthy boy, huh, Mom?" And I go, "Yes, you are." And he believed me, as they do. They believe their mothers when he was,
The
gosh,
favorite thing you used to
two,
say
3 years
was,
old.
"You're a past healer."
You're a fast healer. Yes, if he did hurt himself or anything or got sick, because he was always getting sick. And but I would say, "Well, you're a fast healer, send it away." And he did. He
He,
did.
he's well over 6 foot tall now.
Oh yeah, he sure is. He's 6'3", I think. Yeah.
We're the same height. Wait a minute.
Anyway, it was my first year of science of mind studies, and from the beginning, it was like a 9-month course. By the end of that 9-month course, he quit. He quit needing to see his allergist, pediatric allergist. We just stopped. He just stopped all the medicines. He stopped. I stopped taking him to the doctor's office every other week, and he didn't have to go to a doctor until uh, he started kindergarten, which was like 2 years later. And he had to go for a well checkup. And when he walked into the doctor's office, they always used to make a fuss over him and give him lollipops and whatnot. He came in, he looked around, they gave him a lollipop. He said, "Hey, I've missed this place."
Oh, the lollipops. Right.
Yeah, and if you don't watch it, you can be rewarding them for being sick. So I mean that applies to us humans as well, us adults, but it's very powerful with children and animals. Speaking of animals,
He's barking at the cat.
yes, we have a dog, a cat, a gecko, and a big outdoor tank full of fish
That's right.
that we're taking care of
That's right.
here because my grandson plays volleyball in cities around the country, and they're in Orlando right now. So we have the whole entourage. So what else do dogs do naturally?
They love.
Oh, do they love?
Yeah, and one interesting thing, I saw something on Facebook a while back, and it was saying that dogs are the only animals, and I don't think it's true, they're the only animals that love you more than they love themselves.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, but that's
But
interesting.
they do self-sacrifice, they
Oh
will
yeah,
protect
yeah,
you.
yeah.
They will protect you.
They go to great lengths and I think their loyalty, probably the only thing I can think of that shows similar loyalty is a mom and her child.
Mhm.
There's not much that's more loyal than that. And so I think loyalty, love, the desire to connect, which is another human quality that I think we don't do well when we isolate or we become so frightened that we feel we have to isolate. We do much better when in relationship and when we're supported and support others. So I think that's another quality. And the other is, I think, being able to eat with your hands.
I think playing is one of their greatest
Yeah.
greatest abilities. They play all the time. especially puppies like this guy. He's always wanting to play. And life is just fun. It's just fun. And how nice if we would do that.
Yeah, and maybe this week you could ask yourself, when was the last time I played, and what kind of playing could I do?
And
You
how
know,
much am I laughing?
yeah, I mean, people will they'll run, but I'm running for exercise. I go to the club because I need to get
Yeah,
in shape.
yeah.
There tends to be,
I should on myself a
yeah,
lot.
there has to be a benefit, some better, some positive outcome, or I can't do it. And I think reading is a good example. Reading because it's a joy to read, not because you need it, and not reading something that necessarily is going to inform you, but because it feels good.
See, the 13th commandment is thou shalt not should on thyself.
Yeah.
Thou shalt not should. I should be doing this. I should do that. I should be better at this. I should, all of that is just a way of putting yourself down. So you can change that to, I would like to be doing this more. I would like to learn this, or I would like to improve in that. But don't shit on yourself because that's a make wrong. I don't see dogs doing that. Dogs don't ever say, I should be more productive,
Mhm. I shouldn't have torn up my bed. Yeah,
No, it was so fun to tear up my
yeah,
bed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw, and you may have seen this on Facebook, where they had four dogs, and the person came home, and all four dogs were standing watching, meeting the person who owned them, and the house was torn up. And so he said, "Who did that?" And three of the dogs looked at the fourth dog, and the fourth dog just looked down like, I have no idea what happened. It must have been a bad day.
Don't believe those lion dogs.
Right, yeah, right. I think, they're intelligent as are we, but our intelligence often talks us out of our own good. It talks us out of taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves and being kind to ourselves. I think about some of the most wonderful experiences I've had in my life have not been the result of something that I bought or something that I've had. It's been an experience that I had, a trip that we took, a
Mm.
place that we went. It's the experiencing of life, not necessarily the acquisition of things to make life easier or better. The best way to have life be easier and better is to live more fully, to live more openly, to live with more aliveness. And that's not always easy. So this week, it's a simple message. But it's also one I think that we easily forget, that the need to simply be more playful, to have more fun,
Mhm.
to be willing to smile. If you get up in the morning and you don't feel too good and you look in the mirror and you thought you were younger than that, smile at yourself. Just smile and say, "Hey, I am so lucky to be here. I am so blessed to have me and that I can smile." What's really funny is when you smile, you're either going to do one of two things. You're either going to include that as how you feel, or you're going to have to stop smiling.
And we're finding out that dogs are so much more intelligent than we thought,
Yeah.
especially because they can't speak. We often don't know what they're thinking and able to do. And Marley's just 4 months old, and of course he was not housebroken. And my son was just going crazy with all of the accidents on their floor. Fortunately, it's like
So,
a tile floor, so it's pretty easy to clean up, but he was just getting so tired of that. And then we found out that one of my friends recommended that you can buy a bell for the dog to ring to tell you when he wants to go out. Well, I had never seen one before, but I told my son to go look at the pet store, and he did. And it's just a little patch that they put on the sliding glass door, and he just has to touch it with his nose. He learned immediately. As a matter of fact, you'll probably hear the sound. It sounds like an old telephone ring. But he knows exactly, if he touches that, we go let him outside. He abuses it a little bit because sometimes he just wants to go outside and play, and that's okay, unless he's digging in the dirt. But he learned so fast. They are so smart, and we now know that some people are teaching dogs how to communicate by pushing buttons that either spell out circumstances or stand for certain things that they want to do.
So
You saw that,
it's like
right?
100.
Was it a poodle, I think?
I don't
I
remember
think it
what
was a
kind of, but it was
poodle.
100,
They're very smart.
150 word vocabulary,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing. So I guess another piece of this is don't underestimate you, don't
Mhm.
underestimate others, don't underestimate the creatures that we spend time with. We now know, uh, we have good evidence that crows communicate with each other, who likes them and who doesn't like them. And they pass that on to each other. And a crow, a year and a half to 2 years later, will recognize someone and let his fellow mates know that this is somebody that is good to crows or not so good.
What's going on here? What are you doing?
I'm just noticing I have a rainbow now.
You have a rain.
Yeah, I have a rainbow face.
Oh, yeah. Was that the sun?
Yeah.
Marley, hey, what are you doing?
So this is an unusual talk. We don't usually do it at a pet store.
I think he's rubbing that bone. The reason I got him the bone is we have a door stopper, or my son has a door stopper. That's like a hard plastic door stopper, and he just loves chewing on that thing. And we noticed he didn't have anything hard and rubbery to chew on.
Rock.
All were
You,
soft
you
toys
have
and
rocks,
ropes.
stones.
Yeah, and outside he was putting rocks in his mouth. So I said, let's get something for that's hard, and he loves that fake bone now. I don't think it's rawhide either. I'm trying to remember what they said it is, but it tastes like bacon. So he loves it. Oh, he is playing all the time. Can we go play after this?
Yes.
You might even ask yourself, how do I play? How do I play?
Yeah.
What's fun for me? Because as adults, we get so task oriented, and I have to wash the dishes and wash the clothes and clean the house and get ready for this and get ready for that. It's,
Yeah, isn't it interesting? We'll often say a good day is when I got everything on my to-do list done.
I tend to do that
Yeah,
too.
and what could be a good day is I got to play today. I found time to play. I found time for a walk. I found time to take care of myself. I found time to enjoy myself. If you haven't listened to a piece of
Mhm.
music recently that you love, is it because you haven't had time or you've given up on music? And if you love music and you realize you haven't listened to it for a while, listen to it, but don't listen to it as background. Sit and
Mhm.
close your eyes if you can and sit quietly and listen and just listen to how it's articulated, how it feels. Listen to all of it. And if you have a pair of headphones, then enjoy it that way. But what I think happens is we often do things, multiple things, and no one thing gets our full attention. So when you listen to a piece of music and you're not doing anything else, you hear the music. When you listen to the music in the background and you're reading a book, or you're cleaning the refrigerator, or you're doing something else, you- you're going to notice that you don't have your full attention. You don't have the full joy that you could have experiencing it. So one of the things I know about dogs and cats and most animals is they give the 100% of attention to whatever they're doing.
That's true.
Yeah.
They don't do dual
Yeah,
tasking,
you
do
know,
they?
you'll never see the dog saying, "I want to play, but I want to read this first." We'll play over here. Yeah. I remember years ago with my son, he was very little, and I would play with him, but you believe me, actually, it got boring. And so I'm playing with him, but I got the TV on in the background, and it's HBO, so how could you not watch it? And I'm watching HBO while I'm playing with him. And he looked at me and he said, "Dad, could you just play with me?" And I said, "I am." He said, "No, you're not." So I would play with him by the hour. And so what I found out is when I turned the TV off, he only wanted to play for about 20 minutes and then he wanted to take a nap. And I noticed that what he was doing was saying, "I'll play with you for a lot longer in order to hope that I can engage you." And, if you've been a parent, and for those of you that have done it, it does get tiring. You have moments where you think about what it was like not to have children. And you don't tell them that, but I found that when I put my whole self into it, I actually had a better experience too. I lost track of how long I'd been playing with him building block buildings and then knocking them down and things like that, things that kids like to do, or the boys like to do anyway. So the message today is find more ways to play. If you're not sure how to do that, then if there's an animal anywhere near you, watch them play. Imitate the animal as best you can. And speaking of imitation, I watched another video with a dog. This is our dog day. And the man was limping because of his injury. And the dog was walking behind him, limping with him.
Is that empathy?
Empathy, yeah. The dog was, and I've seen this before, there's several different
Yeah,
places.
yeah.
So having compassion for the man and walking the way he was walking,
Yeah, that is
It's
interesting.
like the old Frankenstein movie, where he says, walk like this. And, he walks behind Igor and he limps like Igor does. He walks like this, Walk this way. He says,
Walk this way,
yeah.
walk this way.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so I hope this message today has some value for all of you. It's certainly more playful and a lighter message than often, although when I look at the political times we live in and everything going on around us, I think we could all appreciate a little bit more levity, a bit of a lighter time.
And actually, we covered some of the key
Yeah,
parts
principles.
of this teaching, which is that your thoughts, your feelings, your mental attitudes create your experience. So we need to understand that and learn to switch when we're spending too much time worrying or out of the present moment, doing the what ifs and whens and what would happen if this happened or that happened. But just to be actually in gratitude is one of the fastest way to switch out of any of that and
Right.
be grateful for what you have right now that is working, that does make you happy or should be making you happy that you may not be paying attention to. And start thinking about all that you have to appreciate because then that will create more in your life that you appreciate. So it's a wonderful teaching and it's a wonderful habit to get into uh, because you will overcome some of the worst hardships
Yeah.
so much more easily when you expect the best.
One last thing I'm thinking is too, if it's hard to shift gears from worry or negativity into something positive, one of the things that I often do when I come home from work, if it's been a really difficult day, is I'll watch maybe 15 or 20 minutes of Johnny Carson interviewing Robin Williams. And you go on YouTube and I choose either comedy or animal stories. And it is so hard to be in a negative mood. And if you're not feeling good physically and you can watch something that makes you laugh, it makes you breathe. And we know, as an example, that depression for people often has with it a whole physical symptom picture of aches and pains. And so we know that when people are depressed, they're more likely to ache. If you're laughing, you're most likely to ache, and you're less likely to give attention to whatever pain there may be in your life. And that always reminds me of the person whose name I can never remember, who was a professor at a college, and he still teaches, who was given a fatal disease and went to a motel or a hotel and watched videotapes for
Are you talking about Norman Cousins?
Norman Cousins. Yeah,
Yeah, he wasn't a professor. He actually was like an editor.
like I said, he was an editor.
And he got a fatal disease, very strange fatal disease. There was no cure for it. And they wanted to put him in the hospital. And he found out how much the hospital bill was going to
That's
cost
right.
him. And he said, "Ah, shoot, I'm going to go to a fine hotel instead. I'll pay less money
And I'll die
and
there.
I'll have, you know, room service for my meals." And he spent the whole time watching comics on TV, which made him laugh. And he laughed his way to wellness.
Yeah, quite literally.
And he wrote a book about it
Yeah.
because it was an incurable disease. And and he laughed himself to wellness. So let's have fun like puppies and dogs do. And let's learn to be positive and not worry about dreadful things that could happen because that is our teaching. So let's do a share.
Yeah.
see, is that it? Is that the one? I think it
It's the
is.
share. And it's not, there's none.
Oh, we didn't click
No,
it.
so we're
Okay.
good. Anyway, if you'd like to support us and support this ministry, and it isn't always as light and as fun as it has been today, but you're welcome to do that by going to our website, Center for Spiritual Living Palm Beaches, and you can donate. But I'm speaking to the people who obviously know us well here,
No, it's CSL Palm Beaches, honey.
right?
CSLPalmBeaches.org. And it has a button that says ways to donate. He wants his bone here. Can you hold him so I can get his bone?
I can't, no,
You can't.
I can't get him.
CSLPalmBeaches.org, and there's a button that says ways to donate. So we appreciate your donations. They're very pivotal.
It didn't work.
Here's the bone.
Yeah. Yes.
See, he wanted his bone. Okay. So we thank you for your donations.
And
And
we're going to stop the recording here.